Good morning and welcome to the video for Wednesday, May the 13th for 5th grade. This is going to cover our lesson working with estimating volume. So to begin with, we had an investigate problem where they wanted us to use a couple boxes and try to figure out what the bottom layer would be if we had crayon boxes, and then figure out how many layers might work to get 20 boxes. So I don't have a way to really recreate that. It would be tricky to do that even in my classroom, especially since the book doesn't provide the specific area net that I would need, or the online book doesn't, to be able to practice that. So let's skip ahead to the part that would be important for us that we're going to actually work with in the lesson. Would be to try to figure out the volume once we figure out how we can get a box that would fit 20 boxes of crayons. So the volume is going to be determined by the length of 3 times the width of 4 times the height of 1. And so with this, we can just go ahead and represent it with our blocks. And so we can count those up to get a volume of 12 cubic inches. We are going to end up having a bottom layer of 4 crayon boxes. So the box is going to have 4 boxes in each layer, and we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers, which is going to give us 20 crayon boxes. And so we can do 12 times 20, or I'm going to write it as 20 times 12. That's going to give us 240 cubic inches. And so that would be our volume that we would write in there. So as we move on to the share and show problems, we're going to be doing a couple different things. So one of the things that we're going to be doing as we move into the homework is just going ahead and taking count of how many boxes we potentially have of different things. The first few problems here are going to be a little bit easier to figure out. So if we are going to take 125 cubic inches for number 1, times the number of boxes of tissues, it looks like we have 9 here, then we can go ahead and multiply. So 9 times 125, we're going to get 900 plus 225, and that's going to give us 1125. Sorry, I had to think about that for a second. So working with partial products, I can use what I remember from working with counting by quarters to get my 225. So $2.25 would be the equivalent to 9 quarters. And so for number 2, we're working with 16 times the number of boxes, and so it looks like we have 6 times 4. And so what you could do is go ahead and do 16 times 6. That's going to give us 96. Then do 96 times 4. And that is going to give us 384, I believe. And we are looking for cubic inches. And so you could write it this way, or you can also do it this way. And then for number 3, we're working with 30 cubic inches times 10 of these little tiny boxes. And so that one's probably the easiest one. We would end up with 300 cubic centimeters. And so the next couple ones, I'm not going to worry about doing them, but if you want to practice these on your own. So number 4 is going to ask us to do 80 times the number of books that we have in here. And if we go ahead and add one more row of books, then we would end up with 4 rows of 4, which would give us 16 books inside the box. And so at that point, they want us to find the total volume of the box. So you can do 16 times 80 to figure that out. And then for number 5, I had a very difficult time telling by looking at this because my picture is blurry, but it appears like there are 3, 6, 9 boxes in 2 rows. So that would be 18 boxes times 324 to get the answer to that. So I may put those both in the homework, but for now, let's go ahead and look at our homework problems. So we can see that we have 1, 2, 3 boxes here. And so we have 3 on this layer, 3 on this layer, 3 on this layer, 3 on this layer for 12. And then we can double that to get 24. So we can do 500 times 24 to get the answer for that one. And again, you can kind of use the picture to help you. So here's our first box of tea, and then our second, third, fourth, fifth, and that. So we would have 5 times 5 for the number of boxes that we would have in this side, and then 5 times 5 for the other side. And then we would multiply that times the volume. So that's kind of the strategy of what we're doing. So just kind of see what you can figure out for the number of total boxes that we would end up having, and then multiplying that total number of boxes by the volume of each box to find the answer. For number 6, explain how you can estimate the volume of a larger container that holds 5 by 4 boxes and is 3 layers high. And so each cereal box has 16 inches. So again, for number 6, you are explaining. So you could explain by writing the problem. So you could do 5 times 4 times 3 to figure out your number of boxes times 16 to get the answer, or you could write it out in words. I think what they're suggesting by the fact that they didn't give us multiple lines to write on is they probably want the first option for that. Number 1 and number 2 on the back, again, you can count the number of boxes that we would be working with. So you can start by taking the top layer and then doubling it. Same thing for this one. And then multiplying. So the number 3, if we have 16 unit cubes, we want to figure out how many different types of rectangular prisms we can make. So again, we're going back to the idea of, if I multiply 3 numbers together, what would those numbers be to equal 16? And then how many different combinations of 3 factors can I multiply together to get 16? For number 4, the volume for this should be relatively easy because everything is only 1 inch high. For number 5, 20 gallons of water times 4 quarts in a gallon will help us solve that one. And then kilometers to meters, a kilometer is worth 1,000 meters. So that should be everything you need to do the homework problems. Risen Christ students, I'm going to ask you to do the evens on the front, 1 and 2 on the back. And so that will kind of help us figure out what we're doing for today. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in Google Classroom or reach out to your classroom teacher if you are not one of my normal students. Hope you have a wonderful day. The homework video for this will come out on Thursday, and then our last 2 videos of the week will come out on Friday for our new lesson and the homework that goes along with that. So have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.